How are you?
I'm fine. John, yourself?
Good. Thank you. Let me introduce let me explain to my people why we are here in my language, and then I'm going to get back to you.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum. Uyghuristan Cumhuriyetçiler Partisi'deki barlıq partiya azaları, aziz vatandaşlarım, yaxşımısınızlar? Bugün biz Amerikalık avukat Andy Strickland efendim bilen tunji qitimliq suhbatimizni olib beryapmiz. Tunji qitimliq deganimizda xalqimizga bu Andy efendimni, avukat Andy efendimni qisqacha tunishtirish, undan keyin bu qitimqi partiyamizning shu tashqi dunyoda olib berayotgan bir asrga yaqin vatan ichi va sirtidagi da'volarimizda biz izchil turda bir narsaga ishinib keldik. U bo'lsa-mu Xitoy kommunist hokimiyatining vatanimiz tuprog'ida olib berayotgan tajovuzchiligi tubdan xalqaro qonunlarga qarshi, uyg'un emas. Shuning uchun Birleşken Devletler Teşkilatı, yani International Court of Justice, yani Helqaraliq Adalet Sotigha cho'qim shu davlatlararo munosabatlarni bir taraf qiladigan sud bo'lg'achqa, biz advokat efendimni, Andy efendimni Uyg'uriston Cumhuriyetçiler Partisi, o'zimizning partiya bir qism aktiv partiya a'zolarimiz, partiya rahbarlarimiz va o'zlarining iqtisodini ajratib, Andy Strickland efendimninki bu qonuniy jihatda olib boradigan faoliyatlarga biz iqtisodni o'zimiz yenimizdan hal qildik. Ve bu planı 6 aylık tüzüp, hazır Andy efendimizle biz işleyatımız 3 ay oldu. Şu 6 ay içinde biz bunu Helqaraliq Adalet Sotigha vatanimizni aslında bir müstakil devlet, Xitoylarning u yerdagi hukmronligini qonunsiz xalqaro qonunlarga tubdan uyg'un emas. Shunga Helqaraliq Adalet Sotining Xitoylarning ziminimizda yurgizayotgan bu tajovuzchiligini e'tirof qilib, vatanimizning, ya'ni Uyg'uristonning müstakil devlet ekanligini bekitish yoki shu haqda bir qarab chiqish uchun biz case turg'izyapmiz. Shu munosabat bilan bugun Andy efendim bilan yig'ilib o'tiribdik. Shunga ba'zi bir qonuniy masalalarni Andy efendimdan so'rab, Andy efendim bilan xalqimiz bir tanishsin. Undan keyin men so'z tarjima qilmayman. Andy efendim so'zini tugatgandan keyin undan keyin men umum mezmunni arkadaşlarla tercüme ettirmen. Okay, Andy. So, first of all, thank you for coming and thank you for taking our case. It is extremely important. And before we start, I would like to introduce yourself and briefly so my people can will know you better. Thank you.
I've been practicing immigration law for 20 years now, give or take. And John and I met at the LLM program. How many years has it been? 18, 19 years ago? Time flies.
Yes.
And I've been doing immigration law ever since. I've filed some federal briefs with the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. My bar license comes from Washington, D.C. I'm licensed in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, Northern District, Florida, U.S. Supreme Court. And so that's what I've been doing. I'm a small plane pilot as a hobby, and prior military, couple years reserve, a year of active duty, and that's about it. So I've been practicing immigration law all these years, and so I'd like to go ahead and talk about what we're trying to accomplish here. Can we transition into that now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so what we're trying to accomplish basically is trying to make an argument for the ICJ jurisdiction, which is the International Court of Justice jurisdiction. But the problem is, in order to file a case with the ICJ, you have to be a member state of the United Nations. And so the Uyghuristan Republican Party is trying to make an argument on behalf of the entire Uyghur people and the former country of the current country of Eastern Turkestan or Uyghuristan, that there are issues, human rights violations, there are economic issues, there's genocide issues going on right now in Eastern Turkestan that should be addressed by the United Nations, that should be addressed by the International Court of Justice. And so what I'm trying to do, what I'm going to do, what I've started doing is preparing basically a legal memorandum. And it's kind of complicated, really. It's broken down in the following parts. So the first thing is on an ICJ, International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court complaint, we're supposed to break it down into certain parts. And so we talk about the parties, introduction to the issue, some facts, try to make an argument for the jurisdiction of the court, applicable conventions or treaties, and then relief, meaning what it is that we are trying to obtain. So with the parties, I'm trying to research the history of your country in order to try to make an argument as to who it is that's wants an appearance in court. And so, just like in every case that I do, like every case that any attorney does, you have to understand who your clients are in order to properly represent them, and in order to properly understand their issues. You have to know who they are, what their issues are, where they're coming from, and their history. And so, I'm doing that now. That's all part of what I'm typing. So I'm preparing already. I'm typing basically a summarized history of your country, dating back to the 1700s, if not earlier. But I'm trying to show in this procedural history, I'm trying to show that there is some sort of treaties, that there is some sort of precedent that your country entered into with any other country. Because there was a couple periods of time that I found out that we could argue that Eastern Turkestan was a legitimate free nation. And as such, it entered into certain treaties. And we have to figure out and find out what treaties it entered into with these certain countries to see if any of these treaties are still applicable today in the United Nations context. And so we have to go back to the roots of the country, the roots of the diplomatic situation of your nation. And so that's the first step. We need to figure out what treaties were entered into. So I'm in the process of doing that now, and writing a history of your country. And keep in mind, even if we're not successful in getting ICJ jurisdiction, because there's really no country called Eastern Turkestan. The fact of the matter is, this brief, this legal memorandum, this argument will still be made available to the public. It'll be made available on numerous websites. We'll send it to all members of the U.S. Senate and anybody. And so that's what we're trying to do, is continue to make an argument that the people of your country are an independent people. They are suffering grievances, and there needs to be a way that these grievances can be resolved. And so constantly putting pressure on the Chinese regime is what we're trying to do.
Okay, and if you don't mind, I'm going to be translated so far, because if it's too much information, you already put it in, and I don't want to be missed out some important parts. So if you don't mind, I'm going to be brief, a couple of minutes, trying to explain to my people what you've been saying.
I guess I should have broken it down into smaller sections.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay. Endi kendisimiz özünü kıskıştırıştırış hakkında endi bilen özünü sorulan suallarga tövendikdek cevap verdi. Men söz hemmini abay yuqur degendek tercüme kılmayman ama en muhim kısımlarını tercüme kılıp berdim. Endi sözünü başlagan çağda özününki Amerika'da immigration yani köçmenler kanunu bilen şugullanatkanlığa 20 yıl bolganlygını ona diken 17 yılın aldida menen bilen birlikte kanun mektepte savaqdaş olup okuganlygymyzni ona diken özününki Florida ve Amerika'nınki Supreme Court yani en ali sotu var. Amerika'nınki en yukarı ali sot. Şununla aza bir advokat ekanligini özüne bu to'g'riliq nurg'un case'larni yo'llab ishlayotganligini bir anglatdi. Ona diken bu Uyghuristan Republican Partisining taklifiga vakolatan endi hozir bu bizningki davlatimizni besiylangan zemin Xitoylarning uyadagi ilib berayotgan hükümranlığı yuqurdi biz degandek qonunga uygun emas degan qismga tayyorlik qilish uchun bir qancha muhim nuqtalarni o'tirib qo'ydi. Buning birinchisi bir advokat bo'lish sifatimiz bilan har qanday bir advokat o'zining klienti ya'ni o'zini hayır qilgan ish qilgan tarafni pishiq bilmagi lozim. Shuning uchun men Uyg'urlarning tarixini 1700-yillarga qadar men keyiniga chekinib tarixlarni aqtirib izlandim. Hem iznivatmen çünkü maqsadimiz bu yaqında qurilgan bo'libmi, bu yaqında qurilib resmiy bir mustaqil yaşagan Sharqiy Turkiston bir davlatining mavjudligini bu bir haqiqat. Biz onu yo'ritmamiz lazım ama onu yo'ritish uchun shu chaqdagi bu mustaqil Sharqiy Turkiston qandaq bir qonuniy to'xtam yoki kelishimlarga qo'l qo'ygan yoki ma'lum bir kelishimlar bo'lganmi, agar bo'lgan bo'lsa bunun hozirgacha kuchli qismi qanchalik, bunun xalqarалық sudda tutadigan o'rni qanchalik, hozirgi Sharqiy Turkiston Uyg'uristonga yurgizilayotgan bu irqiy qirg'inchilik, genocide, bu kishilik huquqni dafsanda qilish ishlari bu intayin kuchayib beryapti. Onun uchun bu intayin muhim bir vaqtda boshlangan bir harakat. Onun uchun men ko'p tayyorlik qilyapman, nurg'un tarixlarni izlayapman. Yana bundan keyin davomli izlanaman. Onun uchun biz oldi bilan bu Birleşken Devletler Teşkilatı'nın Helqaraliq Adalet Sotigha o'ziga a'zo bo'lgan davlatlar o'rtasidagi munosabatlarni bartaraf qiladigan sud bo'lganligi uchun biz oldi bilan Sharqiy Turkistonning shu yaqinda qurilgan Sharqiy Turkiston, hozir Uyg'uriston deb atayotgan shu Sharqiy Turkistonningki bir independent nation yani bir mustaqil davlat ekanligini oldi bilan buni isbotlab, buning yetarli tarixiy material, qonuniy dalil isbotlar bilan biz o'zimizni bu sudning jurisdiction yana az da'vo qabul qilish kategoriyasiga kirmagimiz lozim. Hozir menimki shu boshlig'inim va boshlayotganim, izlayotganim va qilayotgan ishlarim mana bu shundan iborat. Endi biz bu xalqaro sudga bu case'ni bergandan keyin balkim bu birinchi qatimda g'alaba qilolmasligimiz mumkin. Ama onunla bilan hergiz biz meyislenmeyimiz. Çünkü biz bunu Amerika'nın bütün senatorlarına, bütün medyalara, bütün her xil website, dünyada zaten tartışıp bulduğun her kadar mühim bir medyalar arkalı biz bunu devletlerine ve medyalara tartışıp arkalı toxtamasdan biz Birleşken Devletler Teşkilatı'nın bu Helqaraliq Adalet Sotigha bundaq bir haqqani davani çokum qabul qilib qarab chiqish haqida to'xtamasdan biz ularga material yollaymiz ve tashqi dunyoni keynimizga kelib biz bularga bir kuchlik bir qo'polroq aytganda biz besim ishlatamiz. To'xtamay bu materiallarni yetkazib turamiz. Bu xalq bu Uyg'urlarning ahvolini ve ularning bir mustaqil zaminning ekanligini xalqaro olishda intayin foydali. Ben bunu tercüme qilish jarayonida söz tercüme qilmadim ama umumiy mazmunda shunchalik tercüme qildim. Shunga qog'inni inglizcha bildiganlar ashi bo'yicha anglaydi. O'z og'zidan bilmaganlar mening og'zimdan chiqqani bo'yicha anglanglar. Endi bu jarayonlarda biz uş paydalanışga tegishlik uş xalqaralıq barlıq kelişimlerden ve münasebetlik mevcut kanun prensiplerden biz paydalanıp bu davada çokum biz Birleşken Devletler Teşkilatı'nın Helqaraliq Adalet Sotigha yollayız. Okay, and I just basically in general I translated what you've been saying before. And once again, I'll deeply appreciate what you're doing. You spend a lot of your time. I know you are busy with in your office, and still you try to help my nation, my party. I am very grateful.
Yeah, this is quite an endeavor. I mean, it seems like the more that I spend time in this, the more that I realize that you got to learn something else. You know, it's like building a house from scratch. So we have to learn. We have to learn the rules and the procedures of the International Court of Justice, and then on top of that, I'm thinking about elements of the Geneva Convention that we can bring in, and other elements of the United Nations as well that we can tie into the International Court of Justice. But it all boils down to making an argument, fact-based argument of who these people are, who your people are, what it is that's happened in the past, what's happening now, and try to ask the world for a certain form of relief. We're going to ask them something, and that's, you know, the World Court of Justice can't declare an independent nation, but you know, I think by having all these arguments out here and by having these facts and having all this information and trying to show China's legal obligations on the international scale are important, and I think it might hopefully do some good.
Okay. Endine gene qo'shimcha qilgan intayin muhim so'zi biz shu case'ni, ya'ni shu tayyorlikni boshlab men intayin ko'p narsalarni o'rganyapman. Bo'libmi bu Uyg'urlarning, ya'ni sening xalqing deydi, Uyg'urlarningki o'tmishi, hoziri kelgusi haqida men nurg'un bilimlarga erishdim. Endi biz shu Xalqaraliq Adalet Sotigha bu case'larni berishda biz bu Geneva Convention o'xshash nurg'un qonuniy materiallardan, ya'ni qonunlardan, qarorlardan, resolutionlardan foydalanamiz. Ama balkim buninglik bilan Xalqaraliq Adalet Sudi Uyg'urlarning mustaqilligini, ya'ni davlatini bir mustaqil davlat deb oshkora qaror chiqarib e'lon qilmasligi mumkin. Ammo uninglik bilan biz yuqorida degandek to'xtab qolmaymiz. Faqat biz bu Xitoylarningki, ya'ni kommunist hokimiyatining vatanimizda yurgizayotgan bu Uyg'uristonda, ya'ni Uyg'ur davlatiga, Uyg'urlarning davlatiga yurgizayotgan bu qonunsiz hükümranlığı ustida biz to'xtamay material to'plab yo'llab turamiz. Well, thank you. You point out very important, and I thank you for your researching about my nation, the Uyghurs, and you know more about us now and our history and current situations. Unfortunately, like you said, that the Chinese government right now is extremely it's extremist right now. It's genocide goes on right there. It's worse than the Hitler now. The millions of Uyghur people are on the concentration camps, and they're doing it's unbelievable, unhuman action against my people, and that's why the London Tribunal, you did some research on that too. And they declared that the Chinese actions in my country is genocide against the humanity,
right.
crime against the humanity. Yes.
Right. We've got the London Tribunal here. I printed all that out and read through that. But I mean, I know that you and your party and fellow countrymen are emotionally involved in what's going on. But as I prepare this stuff and as I write, I have to take the emotion out of it. I have to base things upon facts, information, and logic. And so that's what I have to do. I can't make, and I'm not going to make claims that are not supported by some evidence of some kind.
Okay, your picture has disappeared. Your video. Okay. Oh,
So,
okay. Hazır endine nihayet mühim bir nesne oturup koydu. Bu sonu hakikaten bu London Tribunal bularınki materyalleri ben görüp çıkandan keyin ben seni nihayet doğru düşündüm. Çünkü sen ve senin halkın bu Uyghur milleti intayın bir azap bir okubetin içinde ruhi cihetten intayın ağır besimlerine uçurap kelevatıdı. Ama ben bununla resmi bir kanuni materyal delil ispatlarga gerçi emines toluk bolsunmu şundadım ben the motion degene fakat bununla ben resmi bir kanuni cihetten delil ispat materyallar tayinip hesiyat tayinip emes ben tayarlıq kılışım gerek bu meni kılıçtı işim. Demek ki oğlum bizden ahvalimizni endi efendimden kançılık düşündüğünlüğünü ispatlardı da onun için endi efendim yana bakıyorum rahmet. Once again, thank you, Andy.
Yeah. And if I can conclude here, the Chinese government is communist, but at the same time, too, it's a unique form of communism. But nevertheless, the CCP is in charge. And you had mentioned a period of time in European history, John, but the fact of the matter is, whether in Yemen or in China or anywhere, the Khmer Rouge in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, communists have killed and destroyed more lives and people than any ideology in history. And so that's another reason why I'm trying to help you out, is because, the Marxist communist theory is dangerous to the world. And I'm seeing a creep of that sort of ideology in my own country here in the United States, a radical sort of Marxism. And so I'm going to try to help your country and your people with this brief, and we'll see where it goes. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, عندنا إن آخر كمان بالخلاص قسم دايدو بو كومونيست ميل قيس فورم يعني قيس شكل ده بريك جغلغان بولستن قرلغان بولستن قتي نظر bu Marksizm, bu komünizm ideolojisi bu dünyada en köp insaniyetini kırgan, yokatkan bir ideolojiye. Yani komünistik sistem. Bu tarihten tartip Orta Asya'da bolsun, başka devletlerde bolsun, nurgunlagan adamların jeniği zaman boldu. Ularning hayatını qaslidi. Onun için hemen bu sizlerinki Uygurlarning ahvalini hemen to'liq tushundim. Shuning uchun men butun vujudim bilan bu ishga yordam qilishga tayyor bo'ldim. Shunga men qo'limdan kelishicha butun tirishchiligim bilan yordam beraman deb xulosaldi. Andy, once again, thank you very much for your time, and I just appreciated what you're doing. And
I'm happy to help, but more importantly, this is serious work, and we're gonna produce a product. So just wanted to thank you for having me on.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.